morning, good afternoon and good evening. Wherever and whenever you're tuning in, thank you and welcome to episode 4 of the Blue Collar Connoisseur Club podcast. Today's episode is based on Rosebank Distillery. So this will be a slightly different episode. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at Rosebank, its history, where it is just now, where they're going and what tours they're going to be offering. So what we're going to do is these will be almost like wee book club episodes. So with these episodes we are going to look at, more delved into products, history of things, and just interesting stories that we do come across as we're going through our journey. So what we'll do is, before we dive into the episode, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast on any of the platforms that you are listening. Do like and share our socials to keep up to date with where we are, where we're going and what we are up to. Now, with Rosebank Distillery reopening to visitors this month on Friday the 7th of June, I thought that we would do an episode on the history of this lowland distillery. Now, Rosebank was established in its current location in 1840 by a wine merchant named James Rankin, who was originally from Fife and then later on Edinburgh. Now, the distillery itself, it does sit nicely on the banks of the Forth and Clyde canals between Falkirk and Canelan, so it does sit on the west end of Falkirk. Now, this is the same site from 1840 which Ian MacLeod Distilleries have decided to redevelop to bring this once loved Falkirk landmark back to life. Now, anybody that is from the area or knows Falkirk will always remember seeing Rosebank on their travels as they have been passing by. So Rosebank itself does have a very varied and far-reaching history which stretches right the way around the world. Now, the original building, the Ian MacLeod Distilleries have decided to redevelop. They have kept a lot of the original external features. I do believe it is actually a Grade 2 listed building, so they have been able to add some 21st century twists to it. So the majority of the outside of the building is the original 1840 building. They have added some, a new 21st century entranceway with a lot of cladding and glass on one side. They have actually kept the original chimney as well, still with the 1840 painted on it, as well as redeveloped round about the distillery itself and the banks of the Forth and Clyde canal that runs past it. They have added in some nice landscaping sculptures. So they have sculptures just the other side of the canal, shaped like whiskey bottles, 3 whiskey bottles in shaped metal, which is quite interesting to actually see. So, with distilling being documented within the wider area round about the distillery, as far back as 1798, you can see that there was always a passion for distilling round about Falkirk. With the first record of a Rosebank distillery being in 1817, which operated for approximately 2 years before closing down again. Now, Mr. Rankin took over the helm in 1840. In the early years, there was a lot of history within Rosebank. So there was one Falkirk Herald article from the 26th of August 1896, which was describing a Falkirk Parish Council meeting discussing on how Rosebank whisky could be used as medicine in the poorhouse for the less fortunate. Now, during that meeting, it was said that they looked to purchase 9 gallons of whisky for medicinal use for residents of the poorhouse. which they did think would last them up to 18 months. So obviously 9 gallons is quite a substantial bit of whiskey to be effectively given away as medicine. So I'm not sure how modern science views whiskey as medicine these days, but I'm sure there's a few elements that there'll be a lot of people will say that whiskey is a good cure for. Just look at the old Scottish tradition of a hot toddy. Now, from its inception in 1840, it didn't actually take very long for Rosebank to break out of the Scottish market and cast its net far and wide and as far as Australia, when in 1879 50 quarter casks containing around 50 litres each set sail from Glasgow on the Clan MacLeod, later named as the James Craig, all the way to Brisbane. Now, back in those days, that was not an easy voyage. Due to storms and everything like that, that kind of voyage would have lasted about 4 months to go from Glasgow to Brisbane. So, to give you an idea of the volume, a quarter cask at say 50 litres would produce up to about 35 70 centilitre bottles. So top end yield, if they all had the 50 litres, for that voyage it could have been in the region of 1700 bottles of Rosebank landing on the Australian shores. Now, 1700 bottles in this day and age with certain volumes of certain whiskies, that is not a big shipment. Back in those days, I could probably imagine that was, very substantial. The distillery had only really been going for maybe 30 years, 40 years. So yeah, that was them finally branching out within the first 40 years to as far as Australia. Now, over the years itself, Rosebank built a strong reputation with staff, community and customers alike. Now, in a more recent Falkirk Herald article, only a few years ago, when they decided that they were looking to bring Rosebank back from the ashes, one former staff member recalled how the yeast used to be delivered once a week by horse and cart from a local brewery in Falkirk. Now, this recollection was from about 1950, and recently spoke to, like I say, the Falkirk Herald within the last couple of years. So even back in about the 1950s, they were still getting delivered by horse and cart, more than likely probably following the canal path. Now, just across the road from the Rosebank Distillery stands a Beefeater restaurant. Now, this Beefeater restaurant, believe it or not, used to be warehouse number 6. And instead of diners, it would have been full of maturing casks of various ages. Now, this is a big building, so that would have been full with a lot of casks. Now, Rosebank itself, as we know it, eventually closed in 1993. Now, predominantly this was due to the amount of spirit that it was supplying to the big blends at the time in the early 90s, which was taking up pretty much all of its production. Now, at the time, the market was becoming saturated with all of these big blends, They did try, and they did eventually bring out a single cask offering round about then as well, but unfortunately it was just that wee bit too late for them to save the distillery back in the early 90s. So when Rosebank shut down, I was about 5, give or take. So it was it's not something I can ever remember actually running. You know, some of you guys watching will maybe have fond memories. Again, if you do have fond memories of Rosebank or any nice wee quirky stories about working there or visiting, again, get in touch with us on our socials. We would love to hear about them and possibly maybe do another episode. So now, although the distillery itself had closed, the old warehouse converted into a restaurant and the main building of the Rosebank Distillery starting to show the passage of time. The Rosebank Story continued when in 2008, I think it was kind of near the end of the year, probably in the run up to Christmas, thieves actually broke into the distillery itself and damaged the old copper stills. After the incident, many believed that would have been the final nail in the Rosebank story, with obviously substantial repairs needing to the building, just due to decay, and with the old copper stills now inoperable. Many thought that would have been the end. Then in 2017, A. MacLeod Distilleries embarked on a programme to resurrect what was once considered the king of the lowlands. After some delays in 2020, due to the pandemic, A. MacLeod Distilleries have now brought Rosebank back with the distillery mixing the old stone building, like I've said, with the 21st century twist. Now, production itself of Rosebank whisky restarted back in June 23, and like I say, the visitor centre officially opens back up on the 7th of June, and they will be offering a range of different tours. Now, as it stands at the moment, any whisky that is getting bottled coming out of casks, which I have had the joys of seeing just now, are about anywhere between 31 years old and 33 years old, are the ones that are getting this bottle just now. I think probably the cheapest bottle that you could probably get of Rosebank at the moment would be in the region of about £2,000. The most expensive bottle that I have seen was £10,000 plus for just one bottle of Rosebank, which I believe was going to China, if memory serves me right. So, going on to the tours, the bit that everybody likes about distilleries, the tours. So, they will be offered initially 3 different types of tours with 3 very different price brackets. So we will go through them. We will go cheapest to most expensive. I won't give you full details about the tours because, well, it's a lot of information to try and take in and try and convey. So the basic tour, the one that probably 90% of people will go for, and probably the one that I will be going for in the very near future, is the Rosebank Reawakening Tour. Now, this would be a 90-minute tour within the distillery, which is priced at £25 per adult. Now, after the 90-minute tour, you would finish off that tour with 2 single malt tastings from sister distilleries. It doesn't actually, for the £25, it doesn't offer you any Rosebank tasting. As you can imagine, these are highly expensive bottles for £25, probably would be pushing the boat out a wee bit. So next we have the Rosebank Rekindle Tour, which again is a 90-minute tour around the distillery. This is priced at £90 per adult. So after the tour, you do finish that off with a tasting of a Rosebank, a Glengoyne and a Tamdhu. Which again, Glengoynes and Tamdhus, we will probably be doing some episodes about them in the future. They are quite nice. I do have a couple of bottles in my collection. And the Daddy Tour, the big one. This is Rosebank Revered. This is a 3-hour tour. So this goes into everything. Now this is priced at £300 per adult. Now after the tour, you do finish it off with a tasting of 3 aged Rosebank whiskies. They do come in some very lovely etched Rosebank glasses and on a nice little Rosebank serving platter with the 3 glasses on top. So again, that is one that would be really nice, but probably for a day trip out, probably a wee bit more expensive than what most people would be looking to pay. Now, that opens on the 7th of June, like I've said. All the details are on the Rosebank website and on all the social medias as well. So it is also worth having a wee look. They do have some really nice photography on there as well of the new distillery. Now, I also have some pictures of the Rosebank Distillery because I dragged a good lady around there the other day just for a wee look at the outside, show her where the distillery was, and so I could get some pictures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this up for me talking. I'll pop a wee slideshow just at the end of the video for people on YouTube. So you will get a wee few minutes with a wee slideshow at the end with some pictures and some reels of Rosebank as well. So again, thank you for your attention. Thank you for joining us for episode number 4. Again, if you could do us all a massive favour, if you could subscribe to the podcast, and that will notify you any time that we do new episodes, which again will be every second week. If you could like and share our socials, you'll find out what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy your time off work, hopefully, if you don't work weekends, and drink sensibly if you are having a beverage while watching this. I do have actually a nice wee pint of beer sitting here. So yeah, until next time folks, we will catch you soon. I think the plan is for the next episode to be on Summersby, which is a beer drink. So we'll go into that more a wee bit on our socials in between now and then. And we look forward to seeing you for episode 5.